point where you've got to win out. It's tough in this format. I mean, it's so easy just to lose a game quickly with wrong switch here or not protecting a Pokemon you need to. So tough day for a lot of players.
We're ready to jump into team preview here. Melvin on your left using Incineroar, Xerneas, Salamence, Groudon, Shedinja, and Tapu Fini. Over on Kyle's side, running the Xerneas, Groudon, very popular duo right there. Kangaskhan, Mawile, Como-O, and Tornadus Incarnate.
So lots of really cool Pokemon on Kyle's team, but I think the Pokemon you should be drawn to in team preview is that Tapu Fini on Melvin's side. He's able to soak Shedinja. There are probably no moves on Kyle's side of the field that can hit it. These are all kind of Pokemon that only typically use a handful of common attacks. So I would be kind of shocked actually if he has any way, but he'd hit a soaked Shedinja. So it's going to be very important for him not to let that happen. Typically, Tornadus is taught Taunt, so at least he can use that to stop the soak, but he can't let it get off or he's just going to lose this one.
Yeah, a lot of players going into this tournament probably had to prepare for Soak Shedinja, but Kyle has made it this far without really having anything that can hit it. I mean, just looking at that, maybe a one-off Thunderbolt Kangaskhan, but I think you're really sacrificing, something for running Thunderbolt on Kangaskhan. But that would bypass that focus.
That it would. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool. That's what I want to see. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool Pokemon on Kyle's team. It just, I mean, you got to find a way to keep enough pressure on Tapu Fini so they can never use Soak at the wrong turn. Also going to be really important for Kyle to keep track of what Pokemon Melvin brings. Perhaps Melvin will opt not to bring one of Shedinja and Tapu Fini, which would change the complexion of the matchup a lot. We saw him the first time he was on stream kind of just use the threat of Shedinja, more so than Shedinja attacking itself. But I would be a little surprised not to see him choose to bring both of them this time, but neither of them leading off the match.
Yeah, here we go now, jumping into game 1 of Swiss Round 11. Melvin leading with Xerneas and Salamence. Over on Kyle's side, leading with Kangaskhan and Tornadus. So again, Melvin really forcing Kyle to bring that Tornadus just to kind of keep that Tapu Fini in check.
Yeah, it seemed like Taunt probably the only option. So on Melvin's side, you really want to knock out that Tornadus. And on Kyle's side, you have to play a lot more conservatively with Tornadus than you normally would. Typically, it's a Pokemon. You want to get the tailwind up and kind of just allow it to be knocked out. But that could be really dangerous in this match.
Yeah, so Incineroar is actually going to take the kill for Melvin. So yeah, no Soak, no Shedinja, none of that going to be happening here. So Kyle really just forced to bring Tornadus. So maybe Kyle will still be able to do something with this Tornadus here, as Incineroar's Intimidate is going to be big on the opposing Kangaskhan, as Kangaskhan on Kyle's side is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve.
So I like this matchup a little bit more on Kyle's side now, but you're going to play a more conventional game that lets him play Tornadus very differently going from this turn on.
Yeah, so here we go. Kangaskhan now on Kyle's side using Fake Out into that Xerneas, preventing a Geomancy from being able to be set up here as Tornadus uses Icy Wind, going to slow things down just a little bit. Of course, Xerneas and Incineroar were both naturally slower than Kyle's team anyways, so really just also maybe hoping for some big chip on that Salamence.
Yeah, would have done a lot of damage to Salamence. Could have helped negate the effects of a Tailwind. And in some ways, it looks like Melvin has a good setup here where you could go for the Fake Out and Geomancy, but regardless of which Pokemon you Fake out, there's some danger. A lot of Kangaskhan are taught Roar. Literally every Tornadus is taught Tailwind to at least match the speed. So, I guess depending on how much they know about each other's teams, we could see a lot of different things happen here, but this maybe isn't as safe as it might look on Melvin's side.
Yeah, so the Icy Wind also comes in handy in case that Xerneas is able to get up a Geomancy. Tornadus can just retaliate with a Tailwind so that Kyle's team can outspeed it. And here we go. Tornadus going to be flinched by that Fake Out over on from that Incineroar on Melvin's side, and Xerneas just content to go for a Dazzling Gleam as Kyle uses Roar onto Melvin's Xerneas right there, just expecting a Geomancy as Groudon goes ahead and takes the field and going to go ahead and revert primally.
Yes, excellent play there by Melvin. Realizing that with Roar as a potential option, you can't just go for the Geomancy. We've now seen all 4 of Melvin's Pokemon with the Salamence, who hasn't yet Mega Evolved, Incineroar, Groudon, and Xerneas. So neither part of the Shedinja combination going to be a factor in this match, but kind of still nice positioning for Melvin where he gets that chip damage with Dazzling Gleam, gets Groudon out safely. Kangaskhan has been affected by that Intimidate, so its attack is lowered. Had a huge amount of damage being threatened by most of Kyle's side of the field. Not seeing Melvin get to take any huge moves towards a sweep, but still get the early lead.
Of course, Tornadus can still threaten that Groudon with a very powerful Supersonic Sky Strike, which we've seen most Tornadus carry, especially hitting for Groudon's weaker special defensive side, so that could be important to do. But here, Tailwind comes up over on Kyle's side of the field thanks to that Tornadus and that Prankster ability now. Going to go ahead and double the speed on Kyle's side as Kangaskhan using Double Edge. It is intimidated twice here, so it's not going to be doing much damage at all. The Incineroar takes not even 50% from that Parental Bond boosted Double Edge, as Kangaskhan takes almost about the same amount in recoil as Groudon using Precipice Blades here. And Kangaskhan actually dodges the attack as Incineroar follows up with a Flare Blitz here, boosted by the sun. Going to go ahead and target down that Tornadus and get the big knockout.
Yeah, I'll be curious to know what both players kind of feel about that Precipice Blades miss, where I think they're kind of both counting on a double switch through the double knockout there, which could kind of help both sides. In Kyle's case, you can't switch anymore, but you get to take full advantage of your Tailwind with 2 more offensive Pokemon. Instead, left with the intimidated Kangaskhan out in the field, but at least he can switch one more time. Probably not worth on Kyle's side, but could be helpful. There's still 2 Pokemon left on Melvin's side that can use the Intimidate ability, so at least that's going to make them a little bit less threatening until Melvin's able to score 1 more knockout.
Yeah, and even if you switch out that Kangaskhan, of course, I'm guessing that the Xerneas must be in back from Kyle. You don't want to switch that Xerneas in and just have it take unnecessary damage.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the nice thing about Kyle's position is at least his Groudon is now quicker in the Tailwind, can threaten a bunch of damage the other way, but you got to be careful about just trading if you're Kyle, where he's pretty far behind the game, and Salamence is a good matchup against all of the remaining Pokemon, so except for Xerneas, obviously. All the more reason not to allow it to be damaged.
Absolutely. And here we go now. Kyle's side of the field retreats his Kangaskhan, going to reset those Intimidates, and Xerneas is going to go ahead and take the field here. But how much damage is it going to take in return from this Incineroar and the Groudon over on Melvin's side? As Incineroar switches out here, does not want to stay in. As Salamence switches in here, going to try to cycle those Intimidates, possibly trying to weaken Groudon's physical attack stat, but we have seen a lot of special Groudons here, as the Intimidate's not going to matter at all onto that Xerneas. Xerneas does Xerneas things, just doing special attack things, as Groudon over on Kyle's side uses Eruption here, so not very effective hit on both Pokemon, but does get some good spread damage out onto that Salamence, and some pretty decent damage over to the Groudon on Melvin's side, as Melvin's Groudon now uses Precipice Blades, hits both Xerneas and Groudon. Big damage. Groudon hangs on, but does 50% to that Xerneas over on Kyle's side.
And there's so much damage on Kyle's side of the field now. I mean, is that a terrible turn in that, Groudon also doing some special attack things there. That's a big Eruption, but now you end up in a spot where it's kind of tough to deal a lot of damage. Eruption no longer going to be a factor for the rest of this game, and there's still 4 Pokemon on Melvin's side you got to find a way to knock out. Again, Intimidate less of a factor if that is a fully special Groudon. You'd assume, I guess, if it has Eruption, at least he has Earth Power. But still, I mean, cleaning up this game is going to be tricky. Kyle kind of needs to try to look for a Geomancy, but I don't know how he's going to get it from here.
Yeah, of course, the Tailwind is currently still up on Kyle's side, will be able to outspeed Melvin's side. So Melvin does have to do a little bit of defensive switching here as Incineroar takes the field. And of course, that might be a possible target for an Earth Power if Kyle's Groudon is fully special. The Intimidate, again, not going to matter on that Xerneas. Not quite sure on that Groudon, but most likely expecting to see a special Groudon as Salamence over on Melvin's side goes ahead and Mega Evolves here. Gets that Aerial ability, can set up a Tailwind to match the Tailwind over on Kyle's side, and even have a staggered Tailwind situation as Xerneas uses Moonblast here, hits in that Mega Salamence slot, gets the KO right there, and here comes Kyle's Groudon.
You could well see a double knockout here the other way.
Yeah, so here comes Groudon with the Earth Power, hits in that Incineroar slot, gets the big KO, so now it's going to come down to Melvin's Groudon and Xerneas versus Kyle's 3 remaining Pokemon, but again, there's just so much damage dealt on the Kyle's side of the field.
Yeah, still, Kyle's looking pretty good now, where he's got the speed advantage for this turn. He's going to have an easy... He'll at least have the opportunity to kind of get a Precipice Blades off without, or Earth Power off, I guess, on either of these targets without too much fear of a reprisal. Still going to be dangerous to try to use Geomancy with that Xerneas, depending on the moves that his Groudon has, though. I mean, if it's fully special, without Precipice Blades to kind of cover both of the Pokemon on Melvin's side, it's still not a great damage trade. Melvin's still in a better position, but this got really close.
Yeah, this is pretty tight, of course. Kyle still has that Kangaskhan in the back, but it's not in a position to come in. It's heavily damaged, comes in, might be able to go for a fake out. Of course, there's still this one last turn of Tailwind, so Kyle for sure knows that his team will be moving before Melvin's side. And here, Melvin's Xerneas uses Protect. Possibly Groudon following suit, does not want to get KO'd as well, but no Protect right there as Xerneas over on Kyle's side finding an opportunity to go for a Geomancy right here, and this could open up opportunities if Kyle goes for an Earth Power into that Groudon as Xerneas goes ahead and gets its boosts.
Yeah, I think Melvin got burned there, where, I mean, I think it's kind of mind games, right, where it's like, do you pressure the Xerneas or not? If it gets off this Geomancy for free, we're probably going to see Kyle take this first game.
Yeah, so there it is, Xerneas getting its boost, and here comes Kyle's Groudon goes for an overheat, though, into the Xerneas Protect. So Groudon now over on Melvin's side using Precipice Blades, but Xerneas dodges it on Kyle's side. That is so big right there to allow Xerneas to continue to deal some damage as it does get the KO on the Groudon. Wow.
So the tension continues here. Groudon gets knocked out, but Xerneas doesn't. Also, Xerneas avoids taking that damage, which would easily have finished it off in the amount of health it's at. Now, Kangaskhan gets to come in, add some pressure with a fake out, give this Xerneas a relatively free turn to attack, and it's still really tight.
But how much damage is Xerneas on Kyle's side going to be able to do that Groudon? It does resist the Moonblast, but it is Geomancied. Taking a quick peek at that Groudon's hit point bar, that's actually a bulkier Groudon.
Yeah, I mean, these are probably two Pokemon you'd expect to survive a single Moonblast, so how do you play around that with a weakened Xerneas and this Kangaskhan fake out? The one benefit is Xerneas can't protect this turn, so maybe you could take advantage of that.
Groudon now over on Melvin's side using Protect as Kangaskhan uses fake out, hits into that Groudon Protect though, and here comes the Xerneas over on Kyle's side of the field using Moonblast, hitting into Melvin's Xerneas, does some big damage, and it is enough to get the KO, so big KO right there from Kyle, and that might do it for Kyle.
Yeah, he's been just a little bit ahead these last few turns. That whole game, his Pokemon guys got whittled down, but not finished off. And the low health Pokemon banding together to take down the higher health Pokemon on Melvin's side. Tough to imagine a way Groudon's going to survive on this one on its own. Yeah,
so here comes Kyle's Xerneas' Moonblast, hits into that Groudon, does not get the KO from a little over 50%, so good information for both players to have, but Kangaskhan will easily wrap it up, and Kyle Livinghouse takes game one with a critical hit. That's just extra damage. That's gravy on top.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of gravy when the 5 HP Groudon there, but a well-played game by Kyle where, he just kind of, it seemed like things were kind of bad for him, but he never gave up too much. He was still strong enough board position the whole way through, whereas Pokemon remained at least healthy enough to fight. Certainly Xerneas dodging that Precipice Blades is a big deal there. Maybe the match goes another way if that connects. However, at least he gets a situation where, he played to his outs and, it's probably the first game all weekend we've seen a Precipice Blades fail to find its mark.
Yeah, so again, good information for both players to take away from this game. Groudon over on Kyle's side is going to be mostly all special. Of course, Groudon over on Melvin's side, much more of a bulkier variant. Obviously, we've seen it before on stream than Earth Power, or actually Moonblast from a +2 Xerneas can actually take Groudon's down under 50%. So that's good information for both players to have as well. No Tapu Fini or Shedinja yet. But, of course, Kyle's ready for it. Already brought that Tornadus.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if Melvin goes to play a more conventional game again in this game 2, or if he tries to do something a little silly with Soak. Certainly the sort of thing you probably enjoy doing with a 1-0 advantage instead of a deficit, just in case things do go kind of wrong. One other thing to keep in mind here, that was kind of interesting while we were watching the match load, and it looked like Melvin's record in the tournament, despite having been the undefeated in Swiss, was only 20-10. So he's playing a lot of 3-game sets. I don't think this is unfamiliar territory for him at all.
Absolutely. I mean, you lose game one playing conventionally, you kind of bring out the Shedinja and Tapu Fini, and then you kind of instill fear in your opponent's minds. Is this going to be how game 3 goes down? Because one thing that would be interesting is if Melvin actually decides to go for a very conventional lead, deal with that Tornadus that Kyle leads with, and then once that Tornadus is out, Shedinja and Tapu Fini can just come in and easily go for the soak.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing about Melvin's team in general is there's so many ways just to set up these really strong winning endgame board conditions that winning or losing the first game probably isn't a big of a deal as long as he learns as much he wants to know about his opponent's team. He got to see Roar early in the match, even though it didn't wind up doing a whole lot because he was expecting it. You could see a lot about the Groudon. Maybe he learned enough to try to do something a little bit different this game. But we see Xerneas and Incineroar are joining the same leads as the first game on Kyle's side, Kangaskhan and Tornadus, which I guess you see pretty much every game from this sort of team.
So Kangaskhan, Tornadus, Xerneas, and Incineroar. So conventional game from Melvin so far. Probably not going to be expecting that Tapu Fini and Shedinja in the back. So here we go. The Intimidate from that Incineroar is going to be a big deal onto that Kangaskhan. But of course, Kyle, dealt with it somehow last game.
Yeah, so I mean, it'll be interesting how this plays out this time. Unlike the last time we saw these Pokemon all in the field together, Kangaskhan hasn't used its Fake Out yet, so it gives Kyle a lot more options. Melvin also knows there's Roar, Fake Out, Icy Wind, Tailwind. There's a lot of ways that using Geomancy can go wrong here. So I wouldn't expect to see that unless he's just trying to make a really hard...
Zernius going to prevent any Geomancy from being able to be used here, as the Incineroar just going to go ahead and follow suit, going to go for a fake out into that Tornadus, so really just preventing setup.
And neither side having to worry about fake out after this. Neither side also having to use any protects there, so there's still kind of a lot of things that can happen this turn. Also gets a lot of Pokemon in this field who can't use protect. Xerneas the big one, where Kyle probably not going to want to use his Z move if he has it on Tornadus too willy-nilly, where could easily be blocked. But at least both of them move past the fake out part of the board state.
Xerneas using protect here. Not going to want to take a possible Supersonic Sky Strike or a taunt, as Tornadus on Kyle's side now using Tailwind, going to go ahead and boost that speed, getting ready to prepare for that Xerneas to set up a Geomancy, as Incineroar uses U-turn. Going to go ahead and chip away more at that Tornadus. Save that Intimidate for later on and allow Melvin to pivot here. Probably could go into that Salamence if it is in the back to cycle yet another Intimidate, or just getting ready to deal some big damage.
He also knows his Xerneas is going to switch out here, because Kangaskhan moving after Incineroar, a little bit suspicious. We're about to see another Roar.
Yo, that's absolutely right. So here we go with a Roar as Salamence switches in another Intimidate, drop down onto that Kangaskhan, as Kangaskhan here just roars away that Xerneas. So really just respecting that Geomancy play.
Yeah, I kind of like that play by Melvin. I mean, he doesn't take advantage of it this time, but I guess at least he doesn't waste his Power Herb. Even better by Kyle, where not only does he cover the possibility of that Geomancy, but he gets the Tailwind off for free because Melvin's too afraid of the potential of his Z-move to leave his Xerneas exposed this time.
Yeah, so Incineroar comes in again and drops yet another Intimidate. So this Kangaskhan currently is at -3 attack. Not going to be doing much damage at all.
Yeah, that Pokemon is terrified. That's 3 different Intimidates, and it's getting out of there.
Yep, Kyle now switches out that Kangaskhan. In comes his own Xerneas here. Pretty decent chance to possibly set up a Geomancy here. Incineroar can target down. Salamence, of course, can also deal some big physical area late damage here as it goes ahead and Mega Evolves. And now that Salamence has Mega Evolved, Incineroar uses Fake Out, targets down that Tornadus. This Tornadus isn't really, it's just slowly getting chipped away as Salamence uses Tailwind to go ahead and match that Tailwind. That's actually advantageous for Melvin because it's a staggered Tailwind, and that means that Melvin's Tailwind is going to last just a little bit longer.
Yeah, a lot of nice things about that for Melvin. I'm still have to be concerned about the Xerneas, but now at least Salamence is faster than it. So if Kyle does try to go for a cheeky Geomancy, at least he'll take some damage in return. But yeah, I mean, you always want to use Tailwind second if you can, because it gives you that advantage at the end. Tornado is better than most. It's setting up Tailwind once it's expired because it has that Prankster ability. So on Melvin's side, you probably want to try to knock out the Tornadus. Often, Tornadus players want the Tornadus to be knocked out. Maybe not so much here, but hard to ignore Xerneas. And Tornadus switching out. Yeah, Kyle preserving it for later.
Yeah, wants it for later once the Tailwinds kind of expire so that maybe Kyle can match and also have a staggered Tailwind advantage. As Salamence here uses Double Edge, going to be big damage into that Kangaskhan slot, though, as Kangaskhan hangs on, really trying to target down that Tornadus, as Xerneas goes for a Geomancy here, sets up very easily. Incineroar can follow up with a Flare Blitz, but, you know, it's set up and it's threatening big damage.
And Melvin maybe got a little bit baited there. I think he was also thinking about the Tailwinds. Like, oh, you know, if I knock out the Tornadus, I'm going to have a big advantage for the rest of the game. Instead, allows this Xerneas to get a Geomancy up completely without any resistance at all. I mean, I guess a Snarl, I mean, it reduces the special attack a little bit, but that's kind of just not enough.
Yeah, so, I mean, Xerneas is still at one stage of increased special attack, which is going to be doing massive amounts of damage to that Salamence over on Melvin's side of the field. I believe there's still one turn of Tailwind left on Kyle's side of the field, which means that, you know, for this one turn, you know, Xerneas will be faster.
Yeah, so Xerneas is the fastest Pokemon in the field, going to get to pick up a bunch of damage, and Kangaskhan is actually in a great spot also. Low enough health that it can probably, if not this turn, then definitely next turn while Xerneas protects, knock itself out with Double Edge, allow Tornadus to get back in the field, set that Tailwind up again, and even out that advantage. Kyle's put himself in a pretty nice spot, and you know, after taking away that first game, Melvin's going to maybe need something to go his way to pull back to a Game 3.
Yeah, Groudon now switches in, going to go ahead and primally revert here into Primal Groudon, which, you know, is probably one of the best Pokemon in the format, one of the best restricted Pokemon in the format. But, you know, Kyle, he's sitting in pretty good position right here because this Salamence is probably forced to protect this turn. Unless, you know, maybe Kyle decided to just go ahead and go straight for a Moonblast, expecting that Protect. So here comes Salamance's Protect. Kyle reacting to this right now. Did he just go for a single target Moonblast as Kangaskhan uses Fake Out? Going to go ahead and hit into that Groudon slot, get some chip damage, but where does this Xerneas go from here? It is going to go for just a down, just trying to get some consistent damage out. Still respectable.
Yeah, maybe not too much of a need to take a big risk here. Moonblast on Groudon would have taken it low enough where a second Moonblast would have picked up the knockout thanks to the help from Kangaskhan, but perhaps he doesn't need it. He still has the speed boost from Geomancy. Could have to play this a little bit carefully, though, with the Tailwind expiring. Kangaskhan now going to be the slowest Pokemon in the field, preventing it from doing any extra damage to Groudon to put it in KO range from a Moonblast. So Cal going to need to be a little careful here, but still, he got full health. Xerneas the Geomancy boost. It's hard to complain about that board position.
Yeah, of course, Kangaskhan probably just going to get KO'd here, but no protects coming out from Kyle's side of the field as Double Edge from Melvin's Salamence gets KO on the Kangaskhan, so Groudon now going to be able to move, go for a full power, Precipice Blades, as Dazzling Gleam gets the KO on that Salamence, does some more chip damage on that Groudon. I got to reconsider what I consider chip because that's pretty big damage as Groudon just uses his turn to go for a Roar. So a smart play right there from Kyle, not respecting the Roar.
Yeah, so he gets some damage off. On Melvin's side, I guess, you're almost tempted to maybe take the damage there where, you could have done a bunch of damage, but still, at least you get rid of the Geomancy. You have the option of bringing your own Xerneas out at some point now, but you're facing down this 4th Groudon. The Xerneas on Kyle's side of the field still healthy. Tornadus is still there, able to set Tailwind again. There's a lot of things in Kyle's favor now. Melvin's perhaps allowed himself to fall too far behind this time.
Yeah, Incineroar over on Melvin's side of the field comes right back in. Does have that fake out support, but Tornadus on Kyle's side comes right back in as well. So again, as you mentioned, another Tailwind can be used. Of course, you have to respect the Incineroar fake out, but Kyle's Groudon actually has slight advantages because it's actually hitting Groudon on its special side, and Earth Power is 100% accurate. Yeah,
Melvin's in a really tough spot here because he kind of needs to do different things. He can't let Tornadus get a Tailwind up. He'll almost definitely lose the game if that happens. He also can't allow Groudon to get a free attack off here. He'll almost definitely lose the game if that happens. Really tough to stop both of those things.
Groudon uses Protect here. Does not want to get KO'd just yet as Tornadus just goes straight for the Tailwind. Going to be able to set it up. And I believe Groudon's Eruption actually would be able to do massive amounts of damage to get the KO on Groudon on Melvin's side from this range. So just trying to get some spread damage right now onto the field as Eruption lands into that Incineroar slot. Boosted by the sun, full powered. Same type of attack bonus, doing good damage as Incineroar here content to just use Snarl. Going to go ahead and try to slow things down just a little bit. Weaken the amount of damage that Groudon and Tornadus can deal out.
Yeah, it's, it helps. These are two special-based Pokemon that will make things a little bit easier. Perhaps Melvin trying to ease into a position where he can use Geomancy with his Xerneas and pull off a Miracle. Certainly, if either of these Pokemon are knocked out, no longer have to worry about Roar because there's no Pokemon in the back to switch out with. Not quite the way you want to counter Roar, but it is an option.
Yeah, and Groudon over on Kyle's side switches out, going to preserve that special attack for later on. Going to send in the Xerneas, who is still sitting pretty healthy right here, as Kyle can actually get the KO on that Groudon with a Supersonic Sky Strike if Melvin decides to stay in, but does not. Going to go ahead and switch out as well. Going to switch in that Xerneas, which can take the Supersonic Sky Strike just a little bit better, especially with that Snarl decreasing the special attack of Tornadus. And here it comes, the Supersonic Sky Strike. Going to be targeting down probably what was that Groudon slot.
Yeah, would you believe it? This late in the match, this is our first Z move.
Well, it's never too late to see a Z move. You get one per game. You kind of feel like you lose something if you don't use it, since it's just so much damage output here. It has the Supersonic Sky Strike, Tornadus going up into the skies and going to go ahead and smack down onto that Xerneas here. Does pretty decent damage right there. Brings Xerneas down to a little under 50% as Incineroar now uses Snarl.
And so further reducing the attack, or the special attack of this Xerneas and Tornadus, which would be great to help his own Xerneas use Geomancy, except for the problem there's a Tornadus on the other side of the field, so it can just taunt the Xerneas. He's still going to have to maneuver a little bit more, but perhaps getting closer to that scenario he's looking for. He doesn't have to worry about Kyle's Xerneas using Geomancy to match any potential Geomancy his own Xerneas uses, unless he wants to use it without the aid of a Power Herb and just kind of, sit there and hope he doesn't get knocked out, which is an option here, since Melvin's going to need to maneuver.
And of course, that Snarl is going to pay off dividends because Xerneas over on Kyle's side now won't even be able to get close to a KO on the Xerneas on Melvin's side with a, just a straight-up Moonblast here. As Xerneas on Melvin's side protects itself, Tornadus using Taunt, really trying to target down that Xerneas over on Melvin's side, as Xerneas over on Kyle's side uses Moonblast now. Going to connect onto that Incineroar over on Melvin's side. That did absolutely nothing.
Wow, that may have been the saddest Moonblast I've ever seen.
Yeah, so then now Incineroar uses Flare Blitz, hits down onto Kyle's Xerneas. So, wow, that was, must be carrying an Assault Vest if
yes,
it did that.
Learning some things about this Incineroar
Yeah.
here. That was not much of a Moonblast. And I guess that kind of helps Melvin here. I'm certainly no threat of a Z move in this case, but definitely makes it easier to keep spreading that Snarl. Kyle showing taunt there, kind of just letting Melvin know, hey, I'm not going to give you that Geomancy that easily. And it's still tough to see how Melvin gets out of this without Geomancy. But, the Xerneas continuing to be weakened. Maybe there's a way, Melvin's getting closer and closer to inching back in this one.
Yeah, and Melvin now switching out his Xerneas for Primal Groudon. Melvin totally could have targeted down the Tornadus that past turn to try to get the KO to allow Xerneas to be able to safely Geomancy, but just decided not to.
Yeah, maybe he's waiting for the last turn of Tailwind to try to mitigate the effect of that advantage.
That's absolutely true, Scott. As Tornadus now using Taunt over on Melvin's over onto Melvin's Groudon, will not be able to use Protect, so that Groudon's going to be pretty exposed as the Incineroar over on Melvin's side goes for a Flare Blitz, and there you go. The Tailwind expires, but hey, guess what's still on the field? Yeah,
he opts not to finish it off after all, and Tornadus, if it wants to, can get another Tailwind off here. Doing so would likely give up the, Actually, it actually seems like a pretty low-risk play. I mean, Groudon can go on the offensive, but, a little bit, what's the cost? At least in that case, Kyle could get his Groudon up at Tailwind. The one problem with that, I guess, is that this is not the typical Groudon we've seen on some other teams, so it's not like he can just use the Tailwind, start spamming Precipice Blades and win unless he misses. He's going to have to single target most of these Pokemon unless he can keep his Groudon healthy enough to finish everything off with Eruption. Yeah, but here it is. Tornadus over on Kyle's side uses Tailwind yet again. That is 3 Tailwinds set up for Kyle's side of the game. I've never seen so many Tailwinds being set up, and Moonblast hits into that Incineroar slot. The special attack drops again as Groudon uses Precipice Blades, connects onto that Xerneas, going to do around 50% as we saw in Game 1. Xerneas actually gets a KO this time, so big damage right there and gets a huge knockout onto the Xerneas over on Kyle's side. And here comes Incineroar on Melvin's side, just goes ahead and uses Flare Blitz, gets a KO on Tornadus, so now it's going to come down to Kyle's Groudon. How much damage is it going to be able to do? Yeah, there are a lot of weakened Pokemon on Melvin's side of the field. Should be interesting, I'd feel really good about this one if I was Kyle, if I was using the more typical physical Groudon. I mean, on the press side of Eruption, it can't miss. But, can Melvin maneuver in a way that lets him weaken Groudon here? That's really what this is going to come down to. Probably not. The Groudon can't protect. Incineroar can't protect either as the Assault Vest, so there's not much you can do to stop an Eruption. Xerneas comes in. Kyle should be able to clean this one up. Yeah, so here comes Groudon's Eruption. How much damage is it going to do to Melvin's Groudon here? Is it going to be enough? Does big damage and gets the KO. That taunt from earlier pays off. Yeah, it looked like it was a good play. Like, I'm going to use taunt to block that Geomancy, but Tornadus from beyond the grave gets that taunt off, and could be what Kyle needs to close this one out and take the set. Xerneas on Melvin's side of the field, takes the field again under 50%. How much damage is this Groudon going to be able to do? But, this Groudon is also sitting very healthy as well, so, this Xerneas has an uphill battle even, Eruption's got to get it from here. I'd kind of forgotten how weakened this Xerneas is. Really a well-played game by Kyle. I'm surprised that this last Tailwind was allowed to happen, but it seems like that's all Melvin's going to need unless he can stall this out and then, I guess, get a Geomancy off. That'd be pretty good if you're on Melvin's side. Obviously, that'll boost your special defense. You'll probably be able to survive the first Eruption with the special defense boost and then just try to slowly target down that Groudon. So, this can be close. Xerneas now goes for the double attack, doesn't get it. And Groudon uses Eruption here, gets the big damage out, and that is going to do it. That is going to go ahead and KO Xerneas. And Kyle Livinghouse defeats Melvin Keh here in Swiss round 12. Big damage. A really wonky set there where the players just maneuvering, but Groudon, the last Pokemon standing, able to finish off all the Pokemon on Melvin's side of the field. Coming back from big disadvantage there, and really fascinating set. Absolutely, well played from both players. It was really a weird game of board position in that last game. I mean, Kyle and Melvin were both maneuvering, just trying to get the Xerneas into the correct position, and little did we know, 10 turns ago, because that's how many Tailwinds went by, that taunt onto that Groudon actually ended up mattering, because there was just no way for Melvin to be able to safely do anything with his board position with that, that last game state with Incineroar and Groudon out on the field. Yeah, I think it's a really good look at the sort of the teams that are built to really cause a lot of different problems for Xerneas too, where we saw a lot of situations throughout this game where Kyle would use Roar, Taunt, and Xerneas, and it wouldn't actually stop a Geomancy, but the cost was never so great of preventing Geomancy from going off that even though Melvin never fell for the bait, that pressure on the Xerneas slot was allowed Kyle to avoid falling enough behind that he was able to control the game, and eventually come out on top.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of players, they do absolutely want to set up that Geomancy, and Melvin really did, but Kyle had so many different options to prevent that Geomancy from happening. Taunt on the Tornadus, being able to set up Tailwind and Icy Wind to try to slow that Xerneas down as well as Roar on that Groudon, the Kangaskhan. So